Natasha, I've read a couple of your past interviews. My favorite series of all time is, with all due respect to all the iterations, is The Twilight Zone. And what I really loved about that series, as I'm sure millions of other people, is it it's entertaining, it's well written, but when you peel the layers, they're also about something. A lot of them are. And can you just talk about you and Brea bringing that kind of aesthetic, that visceral aesthetic, but then really giving us a lot of story to chew on, maybe weeks and months after watching Lucky?
Yeah. Well, so the script came to me pretty much as you see it in the film. There wasn't that much changed. And so, what I really, one of the things I really responded to was exactly what you're saying. So, even when the script became really wild and abstract and expressionistic, and there's all this crazy stuff happening, the truth of it was always just one very thin layer below the sort of absurdist satire, heightened horror of it. There was always right below the surface, there was, a true experience, a true journey that the character was taking. And I think that's, that is sort of the genius of the Twilight Zone or a lot of these genre shows that we all love is, they're painting with these big expressionistic colors, but they're really talking about human drama, human conflict. And I think her script did that in such a unique way. For me, also, my tendency is not always to go towards satire, towards comedy. And another thing about the Twilight Zone, it's very funny.
Yeah.
It really has this sly, very dry, situational, sort of satirical comedy in most of its, at least in the great episodes, I think. Um, and really that was one of the first things I latched on to creatively with her script. And then once I sort of started talking about it in those terms, I think Brea was excited about that and she got it immediately. She said, yes, that's exactly what we want to do. And so we sort of developed the look and the feel and everything sort of off of that initial conversation about how to handle the tone of what's real, what's crazy, what are we really talking about?
How the heck did you handle that tone? Because I thought that was one of the many strengths of this movie, where from the get go, you're wondering what the F is going on. And it's satire, it's dark comedy, and a little bit of confusion and immersion. I don't know how you were able to do all of that without making it. If you went the wrong way, it could border on parody. But
Yes.
you put it right. It's surreal but real at the same time. I don't even know how you did that.
Yeah, I think for me, it was really before all of the sort of like accoutrements, the number one thing was to make sure we were tracking the main character's journey. And so all of the decisions were built and informed off of where she was in her journey. And I think because we always brought it back to that sort of initial, sorry, my dog is barking.
That's okay. Good.
um,
It adds to the sound design. We're okay. It's
yeah,
fine.
yeah. Because we always sort of brought it back to that emotional journey that she was experiencing. We were able to build everything out from that core place. And, so therefore, everything that you're seeing that goes into that crazy place is always still parlaying back to her, where she is. So I know it's not so satisfying an answer, but that is really what it was. We would always just come back to, okay, well, what is she experiencing? What is she feeling? And then all of those decisions are made off of that. So, you see the color red starting to pop up, and it's a very sort of expressionistic choice to start to, introduce red throughout the movie. And we're not just randomly throwing red in because we're bored and we want to start seeing red. It's because of what's going on in her journey. So each and every single decision sort of made off of that core spine of what she's experiencing.
That final choice of using the moniker Lucky, when you watch the movie, it just, as a viewer, it actually enrages me, because when you see her agent talking about how lucky she should feel, I mean, there's a sense where we should always feel grateful for what we have, but
Mhm.
that just, the light bulb just went on for me. And can you just talk about that scene in the context of the entire narrative? Because
Yeah.
that, out of everything, that's the one that really pissed me off, for lack of a
I
better
like that
word.
scene too. I like that scene too. And that's Leith Burke and Brea Grant playing off each other in that scene. And I think their dynamic was very funny to me. That was a lot of fun to capture that scene. But yeah, definitely. I mean, that is based off of real experience that Brea, brought to the script, where she was in a situation and she was told, "Oh, you're so lucky, nothing worse happened." So that is real life absurdity. That's not script, right? That is pulled directly from real life and things that people actually do say to each other. And so I think that is an example of, we're painting with these bright, bold colors, but ultimately a lot of the lines, a lot of the situations are pulled from real experiences. And I think that's why it does sort of feel real, even though you're in this crazy situation where people are singing at each other and the lights are changing and nothing is really that realistic. The context is certainly that, she's so far. For me, it was like she is so far beyond these platitudes and these sort of meaningless things that people are saying to her, that this is just the scene where she's like, pushes back on it a little bit, and she's starting to sort of turn a corner. But yeah, I think, really the big takeaway with that scene is that it's real, and that is things that people say to each other in crazy situations, and it's bizarre.
Not to overread, but do you think some of the biggest horrors of Lucky is I guess maybe the death by a thousand cuts, the gaslighting, the just the insults, the
Mhm.
ignorance that women face on a daily basis. I mean, I put myself front and center. I love filmmakers like De Palma and Argento, and I love the visceral exercise of
Mhm.
killings or the following via the male gaze and everything. But I think Lucky has a lot to say about there are ramifications and there are human consequences. There are people involved in this equation. And what also I think what's great about Lucky is a lot of these movies aren't made just trying to deal with those issues that we should face as a human race. I don't know.
Yeah. I think there's a two-part answer to your question. The second part is, we definitely we're playing with a lot of horror tropes. So I think on an aesthetic level, we were certainly nodding to the slasher, nodding to expressionism, sort of nodding to all of these things that you see in the movie, but using it as satire, right? So like I call it using the skin of a slasher movie, but really it is, we're using horror as satire because the situation is absurd. It's an absurd situation. And really using those horror tropes, which we love. I love these movies as well, and they're a lot of fun. But absolutely, we don't always see it, used to look maybe 2 inches to the left and see what's happening over there. So just taking that lens and moving it over a little bit and seeing what we see, and that is, I think, again, to go back to the script, that is all sort of in the DNA of the script. And then the second part, more on the more visceral level and experiential level of what the character is actually going through. We talked a lot about the exhaustion, and I think that's really the key to it. Is just that, she, by the end of the movie, is has sort of moved through the exhaustion onto the other side. But up till that point, we were really tracking. Okay, where is she? She's sort of all buttoned up at the beginning, right? The buttons are all just so, her braids are perfect. Everything is, put together in its right place. And then it's sort of just about unraveling her throughout the course of the movie, as she's sort of presented with this problem that she can't solve. And I thought it was so funny that Brea wrote this character as a self-help book author. And finally she's sort of confronted with a problem that she can't solve, and then we sort of see her again unraveling, as this just keeps coming and coming and coming, until it's not even really about, oh, he wants to kill me. It's like, God fucking damn it, like, what, just die, like, just go away, leave me alone. I think is really relatable.
My final question to you, and this is an impossible question, but can you name one of your all-time favorite movies and this choice is not just based on nostalgia, but based on a movie of the now, which continues to inspire you as a cinephile, and also, I think sometimes more importantly, as a filmmaker?
Hmm. You know what I keep watching, and every time they re-release it in theaters, I go see it, is Apocalypse Now, which I think is just a masterpiece. And I love Coppola's work, and there's so many genre films that I could talk about, right? There's Alien, there's The Shining, there's all these sort of masterpieces, but There is something about the looseness of Apocalypse Now that is completely different from my own. There's a wildness to it. There's sort of an unhinged wildness to it that I find very inspiring. And it's such an amalgamation of the time and the crazy situation that they were in, a lot of money, a lot of just like all of these things. And so I think there's something wild about that movie that I keep going back. And it was a very early film for me. My father is a cinephile and introduced me to a lot of cinema, including, we watched Alien together for the first time. That was, really my first horror movie. And, I remember him sitting down and being like, this is how you show a war scene. And I was like, okay, what is this? And it's the, the ride of the Valkyries, them sort of riding into war. And even at a young age, I understood how layered that choice was, that the filmmaker was condemning the situation while treating his characters with respect and kindness, but not shying away from the brutality and the cruelty of what the characters were doing. And something about um, the layered nature of that sequence and the objective lens while not being objective at all was so fascinating, continues to fascinate me to this day. So I think that's a film that is just like a total mystery to me, and it truly a masterpiece. So I guess that's my answer. My other answer would be 2001 Space Odyssey, but I think as I get older, I'm a little bit more drawn to the craziness of Apocalypse Now.
Now I'm going to put you on the spot. You made this film in 15 days, and to me, it looks very cinematic, and I really love the message. I love so many things about it. I also loved how you opened up your playbook and that garage sequence, and I kept thinking to myself, there must be an awesome feeling creatively to create something like this within 15 days. But with all the tools that you bring to the thing, I wonder, will she ever would she love to make the jump into commercial filmmaking with a big studio with a huge budget? How often does that weigh on your mind as far as the pros and the cons? And I apologize for putting you on the spot because I just see so all that stuff in there. Yeah.
No, it's definitely yeah, I mean, I think for me it's about resources, and that is the appeal of going up in budget. And yes, you certainly lose some of your independence. I think that we had a lot of freedom and independence on this film. The financier Epic Pictures was very they were on board, they were kind of like, cool, we like the script, sales team likes it, let's go. So you can kind of do some of these crazier things. But I think for me now, I am very interested in having more resources at hand, and very interested in seeing, what we can kind of do on a bigger scale, technically, uh, aesthetically, being able to sort of go bigger with the high concept scene work is really very interesting to me, while always, being interested in the smaller, more intimate scene work that will always be a part of my work. I've always been very interested in putting together more interesting, complicated setups. So absolutely, yeah, I look forward to having more having more to play with.
Thank you so much for your time. We really love your film, and good luck today. Shutter. I just subscribed, and I love that
Yay.
community. So, all
Awesome. Yeah, Shutter is amazing, so you won't regret it. It's a really good resource for all things horror.
right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a
Bye bye.
great one.
You
Bye
too.
bye.
Bye bye.